Good morning, everybody. I'm Tyler, and I'm with On a Budget Outdoors. Today I have for you a DIY repainting of an older kayak. For duck season starts next week. I know I'm a little late doing this. I was hoping to do it sooner, but it's been raining so much here. I've had zero good weather on my days off to do it. But before we get into it, I want to give a big shout out to Gator Coolers. If you don't know about Gator Coolers, I want you to go check them out. I'll leave a link in the description. This is my personal opinion. You know, they didn't endorse this video or anything like that, but they have a good heart for people that love the outdoors and people that don't easily have good access to the outdoors. People with physical disabilities, whether they be wheelchair bound or etc., into the outdoors hunting and fishing. So if you can, go give them, go check them out, read their story, what they're about, and it keeps, I'm gonna tell you, it keeps my coffee hot all day long. Great group of guys, as far as I can tell. Check them out and support them, and get other people that normally wouldn't have access to the outdoors, get them out there hunting and fishing. So let's get into today's video. First, I'm going to start off by giving you, telling you what you need, showing you what you need to do the project right. A lot of different videos out there, they just say, hey, go out there, sand it, buff it up, and paint it, and you're good. No, you're not. It will flake off. That's what I did last year, and it just flakes off. So, this is a different process I've come around and found. Nobody's really done a video on it, so I wanted to share it with you. First off, you do need to scuff up your kayak. You don't need anything too heavy. So I got a paint remover on a drill. You do not have to use a paint remover. You can get some 220 grit sandpaper, something like that, and do it with good old elbow grease. Nothing wrong with that. But I had this already, so I'm going to use it. It's going to be a lot quicker. And now, as far as the paint later on down the road, you need to set up your kayak right. You need to get the paint removed. You need the work done right before you get to painting, because if you do this step wrong, it's not going to look good and it won't last. So the next step, after you get it scuffed up, acetone. You need to get some acetone on it, clear all that little dust particles off. You can wash it with mild soap and water if that's what you want to use. That's perfectly fine. Some dish soap and just don't use a whole lot, but get you a rag, spray it down, and rub it down with your dish liquid if that's what you want to use. It'll do just fine. But if you want it to do a little better in the long run, use acetone or something similar to get that dust out of those little grooves that you just created. Alright, so next you want a good bonding primer. This is Rust-oleum bonding primer. It's a universal primer. Works on metal or plastic. And what it helps do is it creates a better bond to the plastic from the paint. This will bond great to the plastic, and then within 1 hour of after applying this coat, you need to start with your base coat of paint. If you don't do it within that hour, it won't be able to bond properly. So remember that is a very important step. Now I know mine is white. That's all that I could find within my area that I didn't feel like paying an arm and a leg for. And so after the bonding primer, I've got just good old Rust-oleum camouflage spray paint. This is the khaki color. You want to go with your lightest color first. So you'll start out with light, and I'll do my entire kayak in this lighter color first. I've got 2 cans of it. 2 should be plenty enough. Then after that, we're going to do some detail work. Using whatever you have, whether you use a stencil or whether you use some leaves and grass, whatever you want. But we're going to put that on. We're going to spray over the leaves and stuff, do a little contrast with this little darker shade. And then the third darkest shade will go last, just to add some even greater detail. And now you need to give this time to dry. It's warmer today than what it has been, so it shouldn't take too long to dry. Hopefully I'll be able to get it all sprayed up in one sitting. But after all your spray paint is on, the most important step to help it last, you need some clear coat. Don't get high gloss or matte. Go with the flat. You want a flat clear coat, and this is what this is, flat crystal clear. You don't need to do a whole lot. You don't need to, most people say do 3 coats. You're going to be fine with 1 coat. Now it depends on how much you plan on using your kayak to duck hunt. Now if you plan on using it every single day, I'd go with 3 coats. But if you're a weekend warrior like me and only get to go, 1 day out of the week, if that, 1 coat's fine. And it should get you through the entire season. So let's get out there and get working on our kayak. Now, as you can tell, it is not the best looking kayak in the world. Once again, that was because last year I didn't know about needing to protect it and all that. I bought paint that'll bond to plastic, and that's what I took to be truth, and it's not. So step number 1 is get it prepared. Take everything off that you don't need on there. So and make sure that you can keep up with all your stuff. So I got good old Folgers can to put all the stuff in. Alright, so now we're ready to start taking the paint off now that we got it stripped down of all the hardware I need to get out of the way. So I'm thinking this might be a little too flimsy. I think I'm just gonna go with sandpaper. Alright, so the other method wasn't working too well. I think what I got was a little too flimsy. It's just not doing as good of a job as I thought it would. So I'm gonna try the orbital sander. Now if you're using this method, you have to go real light. Don't do it, real aggressively, or you'll eat through your kayak. So if you do this, just do it real gentle. Alright, so I found that using the orbital sander made this process so much easier. I was using 120 grit sandpaper, going over it lightly but quickly. It was removing the paint just right, and it was scuffing it up perfectly. It set me up very well for my painting later on. Now, through the power of editing, we're going to skip all the rest of the sanding and jump straight to the painting. Now this is me applying the bonding primer. Remember, you need to apply it first, give it a little bit of time to dry, but you need to start putting your base coat on within an hour of applying the bonding primer. This was just me doing a small test area on the bottom of the kayak before I finished out the entire kayak itself.
So it's supposed to dry to the touch in 30 minutes, and you need to apply your top coat within an hour, but can do so at any time. So it's just been sitting for just a few minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and get this first top coat ready, and I'm going to spray it on.
Now I went ahead and finished out the rest of the bottom side of the kayak, but I had to get ready to go to work, so I let it rest overnight, and I picked it back up the next morning after I got off of work.
Alright, so it's been about an hour or so now, and it's warmed up a lot, so I had to change shirts. But I'm going to start doing the stencil now. I got a little darker green, and all I've got really around here is water oak leaves, so that's what I'm going with.
Now while you're doing your stencil, try and make sure you get your leaves or your natural foliage, whatever you're using, as flat as you can on your kayak or your painting surface before you spray over it. It'll make it much more detailed and give it a depth that it otherwise would not have.
Alright, so one more time with the lighter colors, just doing a little extra touch up, and that'll really add some extra definition to it and depth. Alright, so we're finally at the last step. That's the clear coat. Make sure you get flat clear coat. Matte is okay, but do not get semi-gloss or gloss, because the birds or whatever, deer, whatever you're hunting, they will see it. They'll see the shine. Flat or matte.
Alright, here's the finished product. Now remember, we started out with sanding. I used the orbital sander with the 120 grit sandpaper. Then we went to cleaning it off with acetone, allowing it to dry. And then we added the bonding primer. And after the bonding primer, we let it dry for a few minutes. Then we started with our base coat. I did one full coat of the base paint, and then I moved on to my stenciling with the 3 different colors. I went with a little darker green, and then a much darker green, and then back over it with my light brown that I started with, or khaki color, to give it a little extra depth and definition. If you enjoyed this video, or if it helped you out, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.